Hello everyone, Nigat here. Welcome to another build order for Littlewargame. Today I'm going to break down a build order for a one den expand. This is a build order for players that are looking to get into beast play in Littlewargame. If you're not sure what beast play means, beast play or beast refers to the faction of units that pretty much comprise snakes, wolves, werewolves, and dragons. And those units come out of a wolf's den, and that's kind of just how that goes. I'm going to be going over kind of how the build order functions more than anything else. I'm going to be covering, very lightly some tricks of how to do the build, but more of it is going to be like the kind of what you're trying to do with the build, rather than just the order itself. The order will be in the description, so you can see kind of like what the order of units is, how many units I'm trying to produce are, and then when you're expected to get your dens, your castles, that kind of thing. So all that is in the description. Also, if you're new to Littlewargame, welcome. This is a great place to learn about this game. It's very similar to StarCraft and kind of how it functions, except it's got more of a medieval unit composition, very similar to Age of Empires. So welcome to the game. Very quickly, what I do is I start with building 2 workers. I get a house, I build another worker, and then once this house is finished, I get a wolf's den. And this is the building where you get a lot of your wolf buildings or your wolves from. So if you're new to Littlewargame, essentially there's 3 options you can go for your first building that produces units. You can go for a barracks, you can go for a wolf den, or you can go for a workshop. A workshop builds mech units, which is like a catapult or a Gatling gun. A barracks unit or a barracks building lets you produce soldiers and archers and raiders at the beginning. That's definitely your more classic medieval style unit. And the wolf den lets you build wolves and snakes once you tech up to snakes. This is definitely a more Zerg-like unit. The wolf is. It plays very similarly. So now that I've mentioned kind of like the Zerg aspect of the wolf den, now I should probably talk about what we're trying to do with this build. So we're trying to be aggressive in the build in the beginning. Getting wolves is really nice because they produce really quickly. You can get a lot of them and they're very cheap. So what you can try to do is try to flood your opponent with a lot of wolves, and that is essentially what we're going for. So essentially, once this wolf den finishes up, we want to get to 4 wolves. This keeps us safe from any potential 2 racks all in that's going on. It at least lets us scout what's going on, and then we can respond to that appropriately. And then it lets us get 4 wolves to kind of see what's going on the other side of the map pretty quickly. Something I will mention is that because we're getting 4 wolves, we do need to get another house before we get our second castle at the second base location. And the reason for the second house is because we're going to get very supply blocked very quickly if we don't build a house as soon as we can. So essentially what I do is after those 4 wolves are produced, I cut workers, I build the second house, and then I don't buy anything else until I have enough money to buy my first expand, the second castle at this second gold mine location. So at this point, you can see that these these wolves are coming out. They're pretty much able to scout what my opponent is going for. Ideally, with this build, you don't want to lose any units at all. You want to keep all of your wolves safe, and as a result of having to micro all your units so that you can keep them safe, your APM is going to go really high. You're going to have to be able to get really comfortable with this build so that you can do the build while also being aggressive with your wolf on the other side of the map, trying to go for some micro-intensive things. So I'm doing two things right now. I'm building this castle now that I have enough gold to build the castle, and I'm microing this wolf over here, which can be a lot of stress for players that don't know how to micro just yet. But I will encourage you, once you get enough time in this build, it'll come naturally. You'll be able to micro and macro at the same time. Something I want to notice is that once you get this castle, you have a choice between what you want to spend your first 50 gold on. So what I chose to do is, once I have this castle, my second castle built or starting to be built, I go into a worker. So I start building a worker, and then I start building another wolf. You have a choice of going something different. You have the choice of starting a wolf and then getting a worker. The reason you would want to go for a wolf is because if your opponent is responding very poorly to the build, to the aggression you're putting on, you probably want to continue the aggression with getting more wolves before you start getting more workers, to see if you could go all in and then try to win the game that way. But for me, I choose to go a worker because I'm trying to get as many workers as fast as I can, because workers are how you make money in this game. So that's what I do. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that that's a choice you can go for. I've tested this a ton. I think I went back and forth a bunch of games trying to figure out what's better, and I found that getting that worker is a little bit better because of the fact that you'll have the workers quicker than otherwise. In this case, I'm playing against a computer, so you can see that my wolves are particularly effective against this computer. I'm not losing any wolves, but that's mostly because my opponent, the computer doesn't have any units to really do anything. So you'll notice that on one of my units, once you start building a wolf, it'll also say pull workers to the second base. You're going to want to pull around 5 workers to the second base. Not exactly when you start building that wolf, but when the wolf itself starts being produced. That's about the timing when you want to start pulling workers to the second base. The reason why you want to pull workers to your second base is because gold mines mine more efficiently the less workers they have working it. But you get more money the more workers that you have working it. So 10 is about the kind of the horizon event, right where it's like the most effective worker production while getting the most effective gold from your mine. But you're pretty much producing 2 workers at a time now. You're trying to get to 21 workers in this build order, and I'll explain that in just a second. And you're also trying to get constant worker production, or wolf den production. You'll notice that we are producing constantly, and in between producing, we basically meet these thresholds where we're able to afford houses and dens. Essentially, we're just trying to fit those buildings inside of our production, inside of our production kind of loops. And those loops include a lot of buying 2 workers. It includes a lot of getting two wolves, and you'll kind of see that in the build order itself. Something I will say as well is that getting these houses are extremely important. You don't want to delay on getting these houses. And as you get more comfortable with this build, it'll come naturally that you just need to start buying these houses, start building these houses. The reason they're so important is because wolves are produced really quickly, but they take up a lot of supply. They take up 2 supply for its cost. That's a lot of supply that wolves are taking up. And so if we want to continue to be aggressive and continue to get more wolves, we need to continue to raise our supply cap, and then not get supply blocked. You'll notice that once we get the second den, we're going to be doing a lot of just producing workers, a lot of just continually produce wolves. That's pretty much all we're trying to do at this beginning point. We're putting up a ton of pressure on our opponent. We're also keeping ourselves safe, right? So if our opponent is forced to stay at home, we're safe to kind of just macro and do exactly what we need to do. And then also, so the reason why I say we want to get to 21 workers is because you want 10 workers per gold mine for effective gold mining. And then you also want that additional worker to go to the third base location and start building your third castle. That way you're not losing money, you're not losing efficiency on your gold mines, and then you also have that worker that's being sent out. So you'll notice that now that this castle had 11 workers at it, I sent one of those workers to go to this third base location just to start being ready to start building another castle. And then this gold mine has 10 workers. So 10 workers, and then this 21st worker is sent to start getting ready to build a gold mine. Send it out a little bit early. That may be considered a mistake, especially because I'm still trying to produce wolves. But once you build this third castle and you have this kind of production going on, you really have a lot of options. A lot of the time, your opponent is going to still be on two bases defending against this. They'll have units. They'll be able to defend against your wolves a little bit. At this point, I think we have around 18 wolves, which is a good amount of wolves. Yes, we have 18. This is exactly what we're aiming for, 18 wolves with 21 workers. And then now that we're getting our third base, we want to start building workers again so that we can saturate our third base, getting an additional house at some point, getting more wolves to just continue to raise our supply. Right, so at this point, once you start building your third castle and you start getting that saturated, you have a lot of options for what you want to do. You could start getting a fortress so you can get some dragons. You could start getting a worker, a wolf research lab, so that you can start getting upgrades for wolves. You could start going for a snake charmer pit. By the way, this is regular speed, so I sped it up to speed 1, and now it feels super fast, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels super fast compared to this. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to continue to produce. You definitely want to continue to get workers. You're going to want to follow it up, obviously, with a faster house so you don't end up supply blocked like I did really briefly there. But yeah, as I mentioned, this is just a really nice build open to get wolves going. You get a lot of castles very safely. You get a lot of wolves to put pressure on your opponent. I've definitely seen games where this wolf, pressure by itself is enough to win games, and you're doing it relatively safe, and you're able to get bases relatively quickly. An additional follow-up you could decide to go for is just staying on this 2-den production, and then continually getting workers, but then saving up for a fourth base so that you could potentially be 2 bases over your opponent, which is a tremendous economy lead. So a lot of ways that you can kind of, I guess, transition out of this opening, and that's going to be up to you guys to figure out how exactly you want to do that. If you want to get creative, if you want to try to maybe get some catapults going. If you want to get some drops going, you can do that. If you want to get dragons, there are so many things you can do out of this beast opening, which is why I like it a lot, actually, because of its flexibility. You can see my opponent is going for racks, then I need some snakes so I can be efficient against archers. Or if he's going for mechanical units, maybe you need to just get some more, I guess, wolves to try to surround that kind of army. So a lot of stuff you could be doing there. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my my video. Like I mentioned below, the build order is going to be in the description, so you can copy paste that and learn the exact build order that I'm going for. And then again, if you're new, welcome. I super appreciate having you guys watching my videos. Continue to watch, continue to like, continue to comment, and continue to play the game. I will see you guys in the next video. Talk to you guys later.